Hi, this is Jen Rubin, editor-in-chief of the Contrarian. I am so delighted to bring to you Carlos Eduardo Espina, who has probably more social followers than anybody in America. He is also an immigration expert and advocate. There's no better person to talk to about this current hell that we are in. Welcome, welcome to the Contrarian, Carlos. It's so great to have you.
No, thank you for having me here. It's a great honor and looking
Oh,
talking about everything going on.
I know it really is. Let's just start with like the biggest picture. What is the community that you're most engaged with? What do they make of all this? Are they angry? Are they scared? What's the general reaction?
Yeah, so we're in a very interesting situation because as you saw, the polls showed in November, a lot of Latinos voted for Donald Trump. That's just the reality. It's an unfortunate reality, but it's the reality. And many people did so thinking, oh, he's going to get rid of, the violent criminals and the people who are committing crimes. Because the reality is, there are some immigrants who do commit crimes and they do it disproportionately against other Latinos and other immigrants. The issue is, and I always warned, is hey, this is not how it's going to go down. He's going to use this as an excuse to go against other people who have nothing to do, have no criminal record, nothing. And I think people are starting to see the harsh reality. We're seeing not just with the case of Kilmar, but there's so many other cases, where, I mean, you've seen the videos, they're smashing people's windows, ICE agents all masked up, rounding up whoever. They're looking for one person, find another, and still take them. So there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of fear, and on the advocate side, the worry is, the rules have fundamentally changed. For years, we would tell people, oh, know your rights, don't open your door, call your attorney, but none of that is being respected. What can you do when, you don't answer questions, so they smash your car window and then they break in by force? So there's just a lot of people who have no idea what's going on, no idea how to react, and there's just so much happening that it's overwhelming, it's scary. But at the same time, there is still a bit of hope that this is temporary and things will pass and things will get better. So, well, we're taking it one day at a time.
Are they keeping their kids out of school? Are they not going to workplaces? How much has this affected their daily life and how they really survive and go to work and go to school and everything else?
Well, the reality is, people don't have that privilege to be able to just stop going to work, going to school. So people are continuing with their daily lives as best as they can. But obviously, with a degree of fear that didn't exist anymore. I mean, you go to work not knowing if it's the last time you're going to see your family because you might be detained at work or on the way to school or whatever it may be. But people have to continue their lives. There's no other choice. But definitely the environment, the mood has changed. People are maybe limiting their exposure to certain scenarios. Before you would maybe go out on the weekends or go to sporting events or go out to restaurants. And so now many people I've seen are just kind of doing the essentials, going to work, going to school, and then staying inside the rest of the time. So the environment has definitely changed, and that's affecting, a lot of local businesses, Latino owned, who are not seeing the same foot traffic as they were before. And just the general environment. You go out to play soccer, for example, and it's not the same upbeat mood. It's more of a mood of dread and fear and persecution. So people are still living their lives, but it's definitely looking a lot different.
Tell people to do. We've seen pictures, as you say, of people having their cars smashed, their homes burst into, people snatch off the street. What do you tell people to do when someone presents themselves and says, I'm an ICE agent, or simply, you're coming with me? What are people supposed to do?
Well, in those moments, and that's what I was getting to earlier, I mean, there really is, really, if we're being honest, there's really not much that can be done. Once you're in that situation, you're in that situation. So, what I've focused more to doing, and I think many people in the community are doing, is, having a plan. If this does happen, who's going to take care of your kids? Make sure you have everything in order. If many immigrants are building stuff in their home countries, what would it look like to move back to your home country? What just planning for these scenarios that maybe before people didn't want to think about. And it's obviously not the ideal, but it's what the moment has forced people to do. And so now you have people, having powers, writing letters about, oh, if I get detained, I want this person to take care of my child, or having money in their home country, so if they get deported they have something to go back to, all these kinds of things, and these planning that don't secure you, but they do give you a little bit more of, I have an idea what's going to happen if it does come to this. But it is just a really depressing situation all around.
It's really unbelievable. What do you tell family members, friends, when they fear that someone has been taken? What do they do then? How do they even figure out where the person is?
Yeah, so I mean, there is a system where you can go in the ICE detainee locator, and then you can find, obviously, if they've been sent to Guantanamo or El Salvador, they don't show up in the system, which is kind of like, the big issue right now, this black hole that people are being sent into. But beyond that, at least for now, there is still a way to track your family members if they are here in the United States, if they haven't been sent abroad. But even then, the Trump administration right now is really limiting, the rights of people in detention centers. They're removing, legal right organizations that would go and do workshops. So people who are getting detained right now, a lot of times they aren't able to talk to their family members for weeks or for days. And, there's a lot of confusion. Attorneys are overwhelmed because there's just so many cases and not enough attorneys to take them all. So, what I try to tell people is we just have to accept that these are very difficult times and it's very hard to find hope. And I think that's when it comes to us, for those of us, who are US citizens, who can vote, who can be a little bit more politically active, to do our part, and create some sort of movement consciousness, to fight back and push back against this. Obviously, thinking about we have midterms coming up in about a year and a half now, and how can we, inform people, many of people in my community who maybe voted for Trump last November, who are now changing their mind. How can we, accept them back in and make them see that the only way to really stop most of this is to have a big showing in the midterms? Because right now it seems like, they're full speed ahead with no brakes, and the only way to stop them is through the democratic process and, having a change in next time around.
Fortunately, there are a lot of lawyers who are working pro bono without any kind of pay who are taking these cases. If somebody needs to find a lawyer, what are the groups that you help people connect with? Is in Maryland, for example, there's CASA. The ACLU is taking some cases. In Texas, for example, how do you direct people or what do you advise people to do?
Yeah, so what I've seen a lot of, it's very hard to find immigration attorneys who will take pro bono, like individual cases. What I've seen a lot of is like, for example, ACLU taking like class action lawsuits or just suing the federal government, not for a particular case, but because a set of, irregular and illegal practices. And so that becomes very difficult because what a lot of times people are looking for is, I need someone to get my family member out of detention. But the bigger picture is your family members in detention because there's a broader, ICE policy of just detaining people randomly. So there are a lot of organizations, but who are doing very good work at a bigger scale. But at the individual level, like I'm saying, I mean, attorneys are overwhelmed. There's just not enough. I mean, if you're detaining 1,000, 2,000 people a day, it's just mathematically not impossible to it's impossible to find all these people pro bono attorneys. So part of it too is also, family members are creating, saving up as much as they can to have some sort of legal fund in case their family members get detained. And like I said, these are not ideal scenarios and not ideal solutions, but it is what the moment has forced the community to do.
Like the public to do? Is it demonstrations, contacting their lawmakers? What should the average person do? They're horrified by what they see. What can they
Yeah,
do?
so I mean, I've been in the immigrant rights activism for a while now, and even like the protest side of it, I haven't told people to go out and protest just because it's like, you don't know. Like we've seen what's happening with people who have been engaged in different types of protests, and I don't want to, put people essentially draw more attention. So
Right.
many people's solution is, hey, I'm just gonna lay low and try to see how I can, ride this out. But I think us who are citizens, and who have that a little bit more of protections, at least for now, to talk to our representatives, and get involved in the political process. I mean, I think the groundwork, and I'm a big advocate for we need a big turnout in the midterms. That work starts now. We need to start knocking on people's doors, showing them these videos. Hey, this is what ICE is doing right now. This is what the government is doing right now. If you want things to change, and I think there are many people who were on the fence or maybe just not politically active, and now they're seeing their parents being detained and their family members being detained, and now they want to go out and help, but they're not sure how to. And then I'm always a big supporter as well of mutual aid and mutual support. Thankfully, I've been blessed to have a big audience on social media, been able to have more resources than I ever imagined having at 26 years old. And I think those of us who are in a bit more of a stable position, we have a duty to give back, whether that's monetarily, using our platforms, amplifying these stories. So, whatever, privilege and advantages that we have, using those for good to help raise awareness and directly help people in these situations. It can even be in the cases like, these wrongful detentions, using our platforms to highlight these cases, to, if we know any attorneys, or if we know, or if we have any money, I don't know, whatever may be, donating to these organizations like the ACLU and these others that you've mentioned that are doing great work, and all, trying to do as much as we can with what we have.
We saw that Senator Van Hollen from Maryland went down to El Salvador, who was unable to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but he did go. Would you like to see more members of Congress either go to El Salvador or show up at ICE facilities so we get some kind of insight into how they're being treated in there?
Yeah, I think it's ideal. I mean, I think I would like to see, a more forceful response. Obviously, forceful meaning like, more persistent and not just kind of letting things slide. I think we are seeing outright human right abuses, and this cannot be tolerated. And we demand answers from the government, and those who are in positions of power should be using that power and that leverage and those connections they have to try to find these answers. So I think that's, I mean, a great example. And we need to see more of that. I mean, I understand the Democrats are in the minority, but I think there is a lot more that can be done, and it's being done slowly, but I think it needs to be done at a bigger scale.
Gives you optimism? What gives you hope? I know so many people just feel like this is so dark. They never expected this. There's no end in sight. What keeps you going? What keeps you optimistic about this country?
Well, I think despite everything, I am a big believer, and I think many immigrants in this country are a big believer that the United States is a great country, not because of one administration, but because of its history, of its legacy, and, administrations are temporary, and no matter how much damage they are trying to do right now, the United States is still the United States. And I hold on to that idea, and I will hold on to that idea until the day that I die, right? So I'm hopeful that the democratic process will continue to be respected, and that, we'll have an opportunity in 2 years or a year and a half now to, vote in the midterms, and then we'll have presidential elections in 4 years. So, for now, that's the hope, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's in our hands to change the future of our country. We can do so, we can do so democratically, and I believe we will do so.
That is inspirational. If you don't give up, how could the rest of us give up? We have to keep going. So if people want to see your work more than on the Contrarian, where should they go? Where are
Well,
your platforms and what do you do?
yeah, so my name is Carlos Eduardo Espina, Carlos Eduardo Espina, on every platform, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And yeah, for those who don't know me, I make content in Spanish about immigration, politics, and other social issues. About 70 to 80% of my audience is here in the United States. So I speak to millions of Latinos here in the United States who consume their media in Spanish, because despite what the president is saying, this is a multilingual country where many people speak multiple languages, and there is a growing and growing population of Spanish speakers in this country. And yeah, I speak to that population, keep them informed, and keep them, up to date with everything that's going on, the good, the bad, and everything in between.
Well, thank you so much for taking time with us, Carlos. We hope to have you back, and please keep up your great work. You're an inspiration to a lot of us. So thanks so much. We'll enjoy having you back.
No, thank you as well, and keep up the great work. I love what y'all do.